Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome back. Today inshallah I will be speaking about a very important spiritual principle in the Islamic tradition. There are two types of speech. When God speaks to man, it is called revelation. And when man speaks to God, it is called supplication. And both of these form a complete circuit. So in fact, the Quran is not just the book that we read that is called a revelation, but the Quran is in fact the spirit or the soul of the human being, the perfect human being, such as the Prophet. So the Quran has a reflective component. When the human being reflects the divine attributes or the message of the Quran, he becomes the Quran. And when he speaks, he becomes the speaking Quran. Because the Quran is not just a book, it's a reality. And as we find in Hadith, it says, God created man in the image of Ar-Rahman, or God created man in his own image. Now, supplication really is a way for the human being to call upon God. As God himself commands and instructs the human being in the Quran, he says, "Call upon me, I will answer you." And in the hadith and in the literature, we find ample evidence that the prophets, they spoke to God freely and openly. Know that the one who holds in his hands the treasuries of the dominion and the world and the hereafter has permitted you to supplicate to him. He has guaranteed its response, and he has commanded you to ask him so that he may give you. He is the merciful, the generous. He has not placed a veil between you and him, and he has not made anyone an intercessor for you. Then he placed the keys of those treasuries in your hands by way of you asking him. So whenever you like, you may open the doors of those treasuries by your supplication. And there is a very famous book that we have from the great-grandson of the Prophet, Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin. It is called Sahifa as-Sajjadiyya, and it is one of the most beautiful compilations of Islamic piety and worship. He says, "Praise belongs to God who disclosed himself to the hearts through mightiness." There are supplications expressing states of humility, of love, of expressing gratefulness. He says, "My God, the continuous flow of your graciousness has distracted me from thanking you. The flood of your bounty has rendered me incapable of counting your praise. The succession of your kind acts has diverted me from mentioning your laudation. The continuous rush of your benefits has thwarted me from spreading the news of your gentle favors." In seeking good outcomes and noble moral traits, he asks God, he says, "O God, deposit in me no quality for which I will be faulted, unless you set it aright." There are supplications which can be read in the manuals and in books. But it should be known that the heart of supplication is not in mimicking the words of a saint or a scholar or a prophet. The heart of supplication is that which comes out of the heart of the servant himself. Every person has a rope which ties him to the Almighty. Every person has a personal relationship with God, and God has given that person specific words by which he calls on him. The Prophet had his mode of speaking. Imam Ali had his mode of speaking. The Khulafa had their modes of speaking to God. And you have a mode of speaking to God that is special to you. God has chosen and he has placed special words on your tongue. He wants to hear you speak to God in a special, in a personal way. And you will find the response, and God will respond to you. Because God looks at hearts and he listens. Don't just ask from your mind, but ask God through the core of your being. Make your hand a tongue. Make your whole wujud, your whole existence, a tongue which speaks to God. God's words are not the words that are in the Quran alone. God's words are the entities of existence. He says, Kun fayakun. Allah created the universe from the breath of the All-Merciful, from the nafas ar-Rahmani. So you also can become an existential word. You become a kalima. He spoke a word into the womb of Mary. This kalima was Isa alayhi salam. There is an important principle here that my teacher advised. And he says to all of his students, and I repeat those words to you, these are precious words. Nothing will get you closer to your aim than by speaking to God in a natural way. There is no need to burden yourself with verses or recorded supplications. Speak to Him on your own accord, night and day, sitting, standing, kneeling, or walking, during waking hours or before sleep, in any condition. If you make this speech your habit, do not abandon it, because God may seek you out in the places where you habituate conversation with Him, and He may not find you. God listens to you like He listened to Moses, like He listened to all of the prophets. And speaking of Moses, God gave Moses the title of the interlocutor, which means Kalimullah. In one of the books of Hadith, there is a story about Moses. He speaks to God and He's asked Him the mode of communication. He says to God, O Lord, are you near to me that I should whisper, or far from you that I should cry out to you? So God revealed to him, saying, O Moses, I am the companion, sitting with one who remembers me. Ana jalisun man dhakarani. And in the next video, I will be speaking about the other aspects of Islamic spirituality. One of them is dhikr, remembrance of God, and the most important is salah, or prayer. Take care. We'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.